Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the channel. Big up everybody who's already joining us. Make sure you do me a favor and like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And big up both my guests. You all know them very, very well. Kenny Ken and Lee Judges are in the house. How are we, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about as enthusiastic as me, Lee. I am very, very similar to you. Big up everybody who wished me a happy birthday, and thanks in the chat. Brady's Banana, of course, for
You haven't
wishing
asked how I am, Dan.
birthday. Well, I did ask both of you, but only Lee replied. But Ken, how are you, mate?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm pretty cheesed off because I think what's happened is that a lot of our fans and a football club are using the disallowed or the goal that should have been disallowed, inverted commas, as a smokescreen for what's really going wrong with the club, what's really going wrong with our team. And I think a lot of our fans are using it for mileage to get some likes and follows on their particular social media accounts. The bigger issue here is the fact we've got 5 players who had good seasons last season and gone backwards. The bigger issue is the fact that we haven't got any depth, that we've only got depth in quantity, but not depth in quality. And that screams when certain players are injured. The biggest talking points is that without Partey, Jesus, we're an average team. But let the truth. Let's not let the truth get in the way of a good story, which is the controversy that happened at St James's Park. Let's just talk about that. Let's just dedicate an hour to that, and then we'll find another excuse for our poor performances. And the fact that the only reason why we're doing well this season is because we're relying heavily on our athleticism, and the fact that we've got the running power, the athletes like Saliba, Gabriel, Declan Rice, big lads. Also, the pace of Saka and Martinelli, and that helps us go into those last furlongs in the 100th minute and win football matches. So let's forget about that and let's just talk about this, because this is going to be interesting. You might get a few headlines, but it's going to be skating over the real issues at the club. I'm deeply concerned that on whether we can mount a successful challenge to Man City and break our duck after 20 years. I'm concerned that we've gone backwards from last season. That's the real issue. But we're not going to be allowed to talk about that.
I think that is the bigger issue for me.
To Arsenal, but it's happened to every club this season. It's happened to Liverpool. It's happened to Wolves 3 times. 3 times. But we want to talk. We want to just skate over the issue. So that's my 2 pence.
Yeah, I think it's some great points, Ken. Big up everybody in the chat. Thank you for wishing me happy birthday. I did have a good night last night. We did make the most of it, even though the football tried its best to ruin it. Got back this afternoon, and I'm so glad that my old man drove, bless him, because otherwise it would have been a hell of a time trying to get back on the trains, because they all were stopped and everyone got stuck in Newcastle. And I ended up getting home really early compared to the guys that got the train, bless them. So, yeah, horrendous in that respect. Also, Lee, let's get into it. You were there. I was there. What, in your opinion, went wrong last night for the Arsenal?
Lack of creativity. I agree with what Kenny's saying. Our forward players, for whatever reason, are not performing. I think the way that we've just sort of changed our style a little bit isn't benefiting those players, the attacking players. It's benefiting the defensive side of it all. But I don't know what players that Kenny's alluding to, but the players that I think it's affected, in my opinion, Shinchenko's been poor because of it. Saka's been poor because of it. Odegaard's been poor because of it. Eddie, was poor because of it. I think we do miss Jesus. I think that massively miss him when he's not playing. But unfortunately, injuries are part and parcel of football. I felt we didn't do enough to win the game yesterday. I'm going to be really honest. Because you're at the game, you probably feel the same, Dan. You don't see what's going on. You just see it coming up, check and everything like that. I think that if I'd been watching it on TV, I'd have been a lot more annoyed about it after the game, because I know what Kenny's saying. It doesn't change from or distract for what a toothless performance it was as far as creativity and scoring goals was. I agree with Kenny. If we would have still been there tonight, we wouldn't have scored. But after watching it back on VAR, I got no problem with it being off or on as the you know, you can say it's on or you can say it's off. I get that one. But from then on, you know, the cross comes over. Let's be right about it. If Raya does his job properly, there's no issue because he just should be like piss poor position.
Awful, wasn't it? Awful.
Piss poor positioning. Don't get nowhere near it. It's a routine cross. Let's get that right. I've watched it 3 or 4 times now. It's a routine cross. He makes a hash of it. But after that, that's my problem with VAR. It's a foul on Gabriel. You can give that for a foul if you want. You could actually give it as handball up because it does touch his hand and helps it score. Or it's offside. Now, I've watched games of football this season. We've been involved on them when it's gone our way as well. Man United won when it's been a millimetre onside or offside. And then they're turning around and saying they can't give that offside because they haven't got the lines or the camera angle for that. If you cannot get a decision right with offside from 6 yards out, then what the hell have you got it for in the first place? You know what I mean? Like, if VAR does not work all around the pitch, then do not have it. You know what I mean? Now, going back to the controversy, if there's no VAR, which I think all 3 of us would be happy that it weren't, it would still been a goal, boys, because the referee gave it. All right. But at least you haven't got all of this looking at it and know there's been mistakes made and everything like that, like, you know. And I think at the end of the day, listen, I'm watching Arsenal at the moment, and Kenny's right. We are nowhere near as good as what we was last season. Now, the statistics and everybody that like was saying a week ago, I've been saying this for all the time this season. I think Kenny has as well. It's got nothing against agendas or whatever. It's just what I've seen. And people were coming back to me, well, look at the stats. We've got a better start than what we had last season. Is it better than what we was last season now? No, it's not. You know what I mean? Like, it's 2 defeats now and 3 draw. It's not, you know, and we're at this moment in time, we're 3 points behind Manchester City now. So it's not better. I think that for whatever reason, we've gone and bought Declan Rice, who's a fantastic player, by the way. And our actual team is worse off. We're not as good as what we were last season. And I think that that's something that's got to be addressed and looked at in the future. I felt that, listen, we was in the game yesterday for most of the games, fine lines, if you look at it like that. If we win that game, you probably turn around and go, do you know what? That's a good away performance, solid defending and everything like that, blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is we didn't win it and we got beat. And with the decisions and VAR, the best we could have hoped for that game, boys, was a 0-0 draw. A 0-0 draw against a weakened Newcastle side, but we're a weakened team as well, like, you know. So, listen, I felt that was. I've watched the game back. I've watched the highlights back. That's probably Havertz's best game that he's played for Arsenal, but still not good enough. There was 3 or 4 occasions he got into good positions and didn't really do much of it. I loved his way that he battled and fought in a nasty game. If you be honest, there were some nasty moments in it from both sides. But and he battled through that bit there. He never hid. I like that side of his game, but we're not quite good enough. Jorginho is nowhere near as good as Partey, boys, and that's the facts. You know what I mean? And when you look at it like that, he done it again. I think Jorginho done okay yesterday, but at the end of it, not good enough. You know, like Donna's saying that Havertz was diabolical. Donna, I love you, but he weren't diabolical yesterday. He weren't great, but he weren't diabolical. And he wasn't the worst on the pitch. You know what I mean? Like, there were, you know, a lot worse of players on that pitch, and some of them my favourites. You know what I mean? Like, I think that Saka, what was his game about yesterday? Like, you know what I mean? Martinelli, you know, Eddie. I'm sorry. That Newcastle defence is a good defence, boys, but it ain't fantastic. It's not one of the best defences in Europe. It's not good, you know what I mean? It's not good, you know, it will get beaten by good teams as it has done by Dortmund and things like that. So, you know, I have to look at it, Daniel. We was talking before, I was talking afterwards. You know, when you looked at that team on paper, that ain't going to win your championships. It's not going to win your titles.
100%. Big up Albert in the chat. This is a worrying stat. Big up Albert. Make sure you head over to Albert's channel. Love to my guys from Albert JTV. Arsenal currently sit 15th in the Premier League for big chances created. Luton and Crystal Palace have created more. And no,
Worry.
I'm not joking. Extremely worrying. And Kenny, I wanted to come to you next because obviously you've spoken about this in your intro. Let's take the controversy away and let's discuss VAR separately. Let's talk about the performance, which to me is what Mikel Arteta should be more worried about, other than having to go at the officials and the VAR. I think alongside that, you should be disappointed with that, but also you should be disappointed with the performance that we put in. Now, there's some Arsenal fans that have said it was an okay performance and they thought it was a well-fought battle and that unfortunately VAR won the game for Newcastle. But I actually quite disagree because I didn't feel there was any part of that performance that I thought, cool, yeah, Arsenal are serious here. This looks a good performance. One shot on target, which Martinelli's shot straight at the keeper. Rice has had a header, which perhaps he could have done better with, but he was quite far out. That went wide. Then it's kind of nada after that. And I'm worried about our style of play, Kenny, because I'm starting to see the old style of play again now when Arteta first started, and we're supposed to be in phase 4. Eddie Howe and Newcastle are in phase 1. They've got Champions League football at the first time of asking. We've done it in phase 4. It's worrying when you look at it that way, and it's worrying that stat that Albert put up. I do think there's some problems going forward, and it's no coincidence, Ken, that Saliba and Gabriel and Rice were good again. They're the only 3 players at the moment that are showing consistent performances, and it must be tactical that Saka and Martinelli aren't taking players on. It must be tactical that we're not creating these chances. So I want to ask you your thoughts on the performance itself and why you thought it was so bad, in your opinion, bro.
Well, first and foremost, you made some good points, like your summarisation before I spoke. The situation is that the 5 players that I've identified, Leeds identified some of them, Martinelli has suffered through these new tactics. Saka suffered, Odegaard suffered, Zinchenko is a shadow of himself. And the biggest elephant in the room that no one's discussed is Benjamin White. How many times have you seen Benjamin White this season overlapped on Saka? You haven't, have you? And that therein lies the problem. Now, you look at Newcastle changed the way they played because of what we did to them last season at St James's Park when they came out, played an expansive game, had their chances, couldn't take them, and then we hit them on a break. So Eddie Howe, because of he's lost players like Barnes, Botman, he's lost Isak, and he's lost obviously Chonnoili from a ban. So he's played the same way he played 2 years ago and they beat us 2-0. Kept it tight, doubled up on us, and basically were waiting for their chance. They were not going to go gung-ho. So basically it was 2 teams trying to cancel each other out. But the situation is when Newcastle giving you all that possession, you've got to be better there. Now, I've heard people saying that Havertz had a good game. Havertz worked his nuts off. There's no doubt about it. The team worked their nuts off. But you don't pay £65 million for Havertz to work his nuts off. You need more from in a creative, stage of a football match because Odegaard's not playing. You know that Jorginho is more of a player that keeps possession, keeps it ticking over, lends the ball to Rice, asks for it back, then lends it. He don't hit it long, he hits it sideways, and he directs traffic. Rice is more of your sort of like defence midfielder. He's more of he's not the complete midfielder Partey is. A lot of people saying Declan Rice is fantastic. Of course he's fantastic, but he's still got a long way to go to reach the levels that Partey was playing at last season. Now, a lot of fans ain't going to like what they say Declan Rice is an upgrade. I say to them, learn your football and know a bit more about the game because at a situation, he's not giving us a creative, anything creativity as either. That's just facts. There was the header, there was the sort of, barnstorming run, but that's few and far between. We still not get enough, in terms of creative aspect from either. So it leaves Kai Havertz, who we call like a generation footballer, which we discussed in previous shows that we've done, the 3 of us have done, but we're not seeing that. We're seeing that he's working hard, but yeah, that's his job to work hard. He wasn't the only person who was in part of the press. Every player was pressing. Eddie was pressing. There was instances when Eddie was in our defensive half trying to help out. That's what you expected to do. But if you're meant to be a creative player and a attacking player, and you're not producing, it's hard to mark you down because That is the criteria that fans are going to mark you on. And still, the thing with Kai Havertz, I said it after Bournemouth, I don't see a great game coming from him. All I see is okay performances. And we are going to sing them out because of what we know we think he's capable of. And we're still not seeing it with Kai Havertz. He's the biggest enigma in football. He was an enigma at Chelsea, lived off the goal in Porto, rightly so, because if I scored the winner in a Champions League final, I'm going to be milking it for the rest of my life. Trust me, I won't have to buy a drink, and I probably won't have to, like I said, do a day's work. I'll be getting sponsorships on that goal, left, right, and centre. I don't blame him. But at Arsenal, it hasn't done it for us. In terms of our performance, Martinelli and Saka were doubled up on, which was expected. Eddie was a Colts player. I'm sorry, he's a Colts player. Where he had he did nothing to make me think, you know what, we got no worries, in attacking range. Yes, he didn't get a service, but sometimes you got to have that little bit, je ne sais quoi, individual ability to create something out of nothing. Eddie can't do that. Eddie's not good enough, and that shouts. So when you hear a few pork chops, and I'm going to call them pork chops because I've had enough of them. So don't take it the wrong way, but that's as far as I'm concerned. I have no affiliation, and they're pork chops because they keep on going on social media about the depth in our squad and using fancy words like Gagashian, which is the biggest rubbish word I've ever heard. When we got a depth of squad in quantity only, not quality, and it shouts. We've had problems since the Community Shield. We won the Community Shield on a deflection, but Man City with a better side. We were talking about not the Forest game where we were thinking, you know what, it was all right, but it was scratchy. We've only played well 4 times, and every time you have scratchy performances, you rely on your athleticism. Eventually, you're going to get Armageddon moments. But the problem about Armageddon moments, we haven't learned from them. We didn't learn from Lons. We didn't learn. West Ham was a catastrophe. All right, we worked a bit hard against Newcastle, but the problem is, unless we break teams down, then we are going to rely on just athleticism to win matches, because the downside in quality without Partey, Jesus is alarming. You can't rely on Odegaard because he's since PSV, he's been average. Now you could put that down to the fact that without Partey in the team, he's having to, like I said, get a bit closer to support Jesus, Jorginho, because with Partey makes those enables Odegaard to lend himself and get closer to the front three. With Jorginho's team, Odegaard can't do that. So maybe that's part of the problem. That's down to the manager. The manager should take the can for this because he's changed our tactics. He's petrified of teams working us out. Well, your new tactics are not too dissimilar to the rubbish that we saw in 2021. Only we've got better players and younger, more athletic players. And, that's what's keeping us in games. But I tell you, it's not going to win titles. It's not going to do well in Europe. And then you're going to have another season where we're going to be asking the manager to spend more money, but he is spending money. But the problem is the players he's getting are not of the calibre of Man City and Liverpool, because there isn't a gap of quality between their first choice and second choice. This is just facts. All right, Liverpool dropped points against Luton, but you look at their attackers. You try and tell me there's a drop in quality between their between their subs and their starters. I don't think so. And Man City, because these are teams. Man City's a team we should be catching. We're as far away from Man City as we before. In fact, I'm going to say something controversial, and I'll tell you can ball any of your body fluids you like. I'm going to say it. Spurs look better than us. At this rate, Spurs are going to finish higher than us. They look a better bet to challenge than us. These are just facts. This is my eye test. That's embarrassing, mate, and unacceptable.
Yeah, listen, I think you're talking a lot of facts there, Kenny, as always, mate. Me and you are normally on the same wavelength. Lee, let me ask you a serious question, because you and I stood outside the ground after the game. I think you said it on your fan cam. Rip it up and start again. But this is a very similar side to last year, other than one player in Granit Xhaka. Declan Rice has come in, who, to be fair, has been probably, along with Saliba, one of our most consistent and best players. What do you put that down to, Lee, that we're not seeing the same style of football? We're not seeing the same Arsenal that we saw last year. What is it?
I think that it's a couple of things, if I'll be honest. I think that the change of style has changed. We've gone to try and outpass, I wouldn't say it's the word, like possession, but more possession based, trying to keep the team without the ball, which we have done. If I've been really honest about it, from a defensive point of view, we've done that quite well. We didn't limited Newcastle to not a lot of chances yesterday. We've limited Manchester City, we've limited Everton when we've gone up there. Most teams that. But what it's done is it's no coincidence that our best players this season are probably like, you would say, Saliba, Tomiyasu, Gabriel being the top four, and Declan Rice. So I think they'd be the main ones. So it's benefited us defensively. But if you have a look at all of our attacking players, they've all been affected by this tactic, in my opinion. I want us to go back to the free-flowing team of last season. Now, I'll be really honest. I don't think we're ever gonna get that, because we haven't got Jesus in the side. What's been our best performance this season? For me, Seville away. Do we win that game if Jesus doesn't play in that game? No, we don't. He's the one that gets the great goal and creates the other one. Look how much better we were with that sort of play. Eddie can't do that. Eddie's a poacher. Eddie ain't a player that's going to bring in players and hold up players. So my argument to that is when people turn around and I'm not going to bring up the goalkeeping situation as a fit. Well, he wants to play Raya because it suits our style of play more, because he's like a better on the ball and whatever you want to go on that side of things, right? Well, if that's the case in the goaling area, why are you not doing it at the attacking area where you can clearly see that Eddie doesn't suit the way we want to play? We want to play interchange and thing like so. So if you're going to play, leave out Jesus, and you're going to you've got to bring in someone like for like. Do you see what I'm saying? But he doesn't do that as an up front. We play a completely different way, and it doesn't work. We was a little bit more free flowing last season, even when Eddie was in the side, but nowhere near we was never ever as good as what we was when we up until the international break last season. We was breathtaking last season, up until the international break. Really, really good play and everything like that, And the thing is that, Eddie was coming on, getting minutes in certain games, but it was basically Jesus, Martinelli and Saka. We've got to get back to that. We're not going to get back to that till after the international break, but then you've got to keep these guys fit. I also think that then it has an effect on Odegaard, because what happens is, I don't know if you noticed it yesterday, and if you're a midfield player, I play midfield, if you're pushing the ball up to the centre forward, right, just hear me out when you say this, and in your mind, you're not 100% sure if he's going to hold it up or he's going to give it away. So you naturally put it into him and you're hesitant. Now, if you've got a player like Jesus, you know that if you put the ball into it, or Haaland, if you put that ball into it, what's your first thing? It's going to stick. You make your run. You get a little bit closer. You get a little bit nearer to the play. You can have a little wall one off 1-2 and all that. But what happens is it keeps breaking down on Eddie. It broke down on him, not all the time yesterday, 50-50. But that ain't good enough. That's not good enough. You know what I mean? Like, what chances did Eddie get? He didn't. You know what I mean? He didn't get a chance yesterday. He's supposed to be a poacher and everything. I think there was one ball, when Havertz put it across and he was nowhere near it, you know what I mean? So that's the problem that you've got there, So it breaks down too many times up front. And what I will criticise Arteta for is that this has been happening all season, if I'll be honest, apart from when Jesus has not played. And he's never changed it. He's never changed it. It's not so important at home, because you're a little bit more forward and everything like that. But when you're away from home, you naturally your team drops a little bit, and your front player is isolated a little bit, And I don't think Jesus gets the real credit that he deserves for his hold-up play. It's not just his hold-up play. He's quite strong on knocks players off and does things and all that. Like, but if you're a centre half, and I'll be really honest with you, like Newcastle centre half, like I think you'd have had a good 8 hours sleep. Good 8 hours sleep. I don't think you have that when Haaland's playing, do you? I don't think you have that when Harry Kane's playing. I don't think you have that when Jesus is playing, because you know that he can mug you off. You know what I mean? Like, as he did in Seville, you know what I mean? Like, that was sensational. We know that Eddie can't do that. And I think that that's the problem there. Like, I also do think yesterday, Dan, we was talking about, there was a couple of incidents yesterday. I was watching the game. The ball goes into Jorginho. Now, I'm not criticising Jorginho when I say this. The ball goes into him, and what he does is he plays it back to the right back, plays it square. When those balls were going into Thomas Partey last season, he would turn, and then we'd be on the front foot, breaking that first press, right, and then going forward. But what happens is, there was a couple of times the ball comes into Jorginho, instead of turning away from it and going, he just plays the safe ball. I'm not having a go at him when I'm saying that, like, because it's a very,
You're right,
very
though. Thomas Partey swivels and their transition's better in it. I get what you're saying.
But because he's a better player, like, you know what I mean, to do it. And he makes that look very, very easy when it's not. I'm not saying that that's bad from Jorginho. It's just that doesn't help the situation. So we play it into Jorginho. It goes back to the right back. I totally agree. And I have mentioned it 3 or 4 times. I'm a massive Ben White fan. But I think he's been poor this season. I even blamed his hairstyle, changing the colour of his hair, get it back to normal. It didn't work, right? You know what I mean? Because he has not been doing what he's been doing for whatever reason. And that is like, Saka is having 2 on him. But like last time in the games, like Saka would have 2 on him. Ben White would make that run. He might not use that run, but what it would might just attract a little player one side, and then in goes Saka. And he hasn't got that. He's Saka and Martinelli this season, and I'll give more credit to Martinelli for this, have been completely isolated. Now, when we was in our pomp last season, Shinchenko goes off, and Martinelli was doing his bits when he hasn't got the help of the fullback going on that side where Saka has. But now, I watched it yesterday, they were both isolated on, and fair play to Newcastle, they doubled up. But if they're doubling up, there's got to be space somewhere else. Where is that space going to be? It's in those little areas in the middle, and we didn't utilise them.
Yeah, there's a lot that I wasn't happy with yesterday, and there was a lot of individual performances for sure. But I wanted to talk a little bit, Ken, about the players that was really good for us last year, and Lee's touched on it. I thought Ben White was phenomenal last year. I thought Zinchenko was so pivotal to the way that we were playing. I thought Jesus made Saka and Martinelli much better. I thought Odegaard really raised his game in terms of goals and assists. And what we're seeing at the moment is those players I've mentioned either underperforming or just not being at the races. And I do think that Mikel Arteta has to hold an L there, because I believe that it's either the managers asked them to play differently or these players have just become poor overnight. And I don't think it's the latter. So I do think that Mikel Arteta has to hold an L for this one. And I'm going to bring this up because I get this quite a lot. This is coming in from Cashers, who says Arsenal have supposedly not clicked so far this season, yet we're only 3 points off the top. Stop being so negative. Sometimes you've got to use your eyes.
It's people like that are the major problem at our football club. Stop being so negative. We've been hearing this garbage from a man like that since we've been doing podcasts, and the common denominator, we're not where we should be. What does he want us to celebrate about yesterday? What does he want us to celebrate about Wednesday? What are we celebrating? We are deeply concerned because we haven't won the title for 20 years. We got so close last season. We made mistakes. We bottled it. And now we're expecting us to take like I said, the baton and enhance ourselves. But we've gone backwards. So how can you be so negative? We've gone backwards. It's because we're 3 points behind Man City. We should be celebrating that. That's not good.
What else? It's not that you're being negative. I'm sorry. It's not that you're being negative, right? It's You know, you've gone up. Like, I'm not bigging it up because we've gone up there, me and Dan, or whatever, because everybody follows it and all that. Like, but you go up there and you don't get a performance and you don't win the game. You are entitled to be disappointed. You are entitled to criticise. You are entitled to say something's not right. Yes, we are 3 points off of it at this moment in time. If Tottenham win tomorrow, it's 5. If you don't win your next game, it's 8. You know, you've got what you said and what I've said over the last 3 or 4 weeks, even when we've been winning, Dan as well, is that the way we're playing is not sustainable. We will get caught out. That's all. It's not us being negative.
And that's the thing. Pete, I think there's a lot of problem with our fan base. Is that there's a lot of people who don't understand football, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there are some fans who understand the game and make it their business to watch the game. So when they're watching us play, they're not just saying, "Oh yeah, I want to watch Saka and Martinelli." They want to see. You know, they want to be able to look at see if there's a pattern of play, if the tactics are right, and then they're going to look at the personnel. So they take a deep interest into how, you know, on what the managers do on the football field and how the players are playing and the style of play. Because guess what? They don't just watch Arsenal, they watch other clubs. They watch Man City and see how successful they are. They watch Barcelona back in the day. They watch the old Man United team, the old Liverpool team, and they watch Real Madrid. So there are fans who are like that, who are going to look at it and say, well, hang on here. We've been watching Arsenal for 40 years, some 50 or 60 years, and we know what it takes to win a title. And what we're seeing isn't enough to win a title. So I'm sorry, there should be room for all 3 of us to be able to use our expertise, because we probably played at low levels, but not as high as what we're playing in now, and the fact that we've taken a deep interest in the tactical side of the game, because we watch other teams, we watch other football matches, we watch international football, so we've got a right to say it. So if we're using our eye test and our experience to say, well, this isn't sustainable, we should be allowed to say it. There's nothing wrong with you being positive and thinking, oh yeah, win, draw, lose, everyone hit the spoons. Good for you, mate. But we've been invited in this debate to talk about what went wrong yesterday, what's been going wrong this season, and how we feel it should be better. We should have a right to say that.
Absolutely.
And that's a fact. Yeah. And you can't stop us from talking if things are going well. We're not going to be like you and say everything's rosy when it's not. But in terms of like the players you mentioned, in terms of the players gone backwards, that is all down to our tactics. Because I've noticed since Mikel Arteta has been head coach or manager, what you're going to call him, he's a manager anyway, he always changes our style depending on the personnel he has at his disposal. Like, for instance, every time you watch Arsenal, season after season, there's light years between the way we play. 2021 is a lot different to what followed in 21-22. 21-22 is a lot different, which followed last season when we played really beautiful play. I didn't hear many fans complaining about the club. And a lot of fans were actually thinking, you know what? In the play ratings I was involved in, we're giving Mikel Arteta high marks. We're giving the player high marks because we were on the road to something good. This season, we've noticed Zinchenko isn't doing what he was doing, the good things he was doing last season in terms of like building attacks from the midfield. He's no longer doing that. So we now look at his defensive game. He's in a disaster. You can't play Zinchenko away from home. If Zinchenko had a defensive nous about him, you wouldn't see seeing Tomiyasu in many games. But you have to play Tomiyasu in the big games because Zinchenko can't be relied on. So you look at what he used to bring for us in midfield. It's not there no more. Benjamin White defensively wasn't the best, but what we liked last season was the fact that he was overlapping Saka, which was creating a 2-2, which means Saka didn't have 2 players on them because the second player who was marking Saka is worried about Benjamin White. So that leaves room and space for Saka to run into. That's gone. Then you've got Saka and Martinelli. They miss having Odegaard, closer to them in order to create a little space. And then there's the basic domino effect is, where's Thomas Partey? Where's my mate Thomas? Thomas won the midfield battle and basically said to you, those 3 players, do your worst. I'm okay here. I'm going to take the ball off the goalkeeper with Ramsdale at the pass, and then I'm going to win that battle, and then I'm going to make that run to create a decoy for you to have more space. That doesn't happen enough. As much as we love Declan Rice, he isn't at that level yet to do that. What we're seeing is Declan Rice in a more defensive midfield role, where he's quelling the attacks. He's giving the ball to he's passing the ball regularly, but he's not getting to that stage of his game where he's doing the Thomas Partey role. Now, a lot of people may find that offensive, but that's part of the problem. So as much as Declan Rice has had fantastic games, and you give him, on average 7 out of 10, from an attacking point of view, he can't do and can't give us what we were having last season. That's not a criticism of Declan. It's the fact that Declan's not got the experience yet to do that on a regular basis in our team. It's Thomas Partey is a big act to follow. And then, then Eddie Nketiah, again, he is what he is in the tin. He is a goal poacher. He's a workhorse, tries to harry his defenders. But if you want that sign of je ne sais quoi, who basically have got the footballing ability to create something out of nothing, you're not going to get that. So there's a massive drop off between him and Jesus. And then Jesus, another thing. Jesus, basically, like if you're playing an opposition where you've got an organised defence where they've got low blocks, then you want someone like Jesus to drag players out of position, because the only way to get past a low block or get past 2 banks of 4, they have to be moved around the pitch. And because when you move around the pitch, there's space for someone else. If you know Jesus in that team, you do that. So basically, what you saw, you're going to see what you saw last night. Pass. Oh no space. Let's pass it back. Let's go down and wing. Oh, no space. Sideways. Let's see. We're going to do a probing ball. Oh, we get tackled. We get the ball back. That's what you saw. Was basically us trying to work out, like a trigonometry exam, because Newcastle were that well organised, and they could play a high line because they knew full well that Martinelli and Saka couldn't get behind them because they had a spare man. So when Trippier swapped to the left hand side, Livramento did his job. For me, gave Martinelli a hard time, and then you got a left back situation where Trippier was on Saka before it was Dan Burns. So it's one of those things where if you don't have creative players, you don't have midfielders making those gambles, you don't have a forward who can drag people out of position, we could be playing right now and it still be nil. Without the VAR, it will still be nil. And that is the worrying situation about how we're playing this season.
Which you have to give Kenny Eddie Howe credit for. He tactically done a job yesterday.
Yeah, he did.
He did. I give them credit for it. What they done was they upset the apple cart in midfield. Whether you think that's right or wrong, I ain't got a problem with that's a midfield battle. They done a number on our fullbacks, and what I'm saying in that position is right. Okay, if you had someone like Jesus in there, or a little bit better than Eddie, like he then can open that up from there. They can't man mark, double mark everybody. And I think at the end of the day, Eddie Howe's gone right. I'll mark. What I'll do is I'll stifle Saka and I'll stifle Martinelli, and hopefully one of our central defenders can do the job on Eddie. And that's exactly what they did. And then in midfield, they hunted things down. They wasn't as that much more attacking than us, if I'll be honest. And they're the home side, you know what I mean? That's gone by the way and beaten Aston Villa 5-1 at their place and all that, But listen, when we do that against Manchester City, we praise it. It was a good tactical battle from Arteta. This time around, Eddie Howe tactically got the better of us, I think, if I look back on it. And you have to accept that,
Yeah, listen, Lee, I'm going to come to you on this point because I've got serious concerns about the midfield, and I'll tell you why. We all know that Thomas Partey is not reliable anymore in terms of his injuries, right? We all know that Declan Rice was brought in to take our midfield to the next level. But unfortunately, we've brought him in, and we've still got Jorginho and El Neni as the backups, which I don't think are good enough. We've got Kai Havertz, who's been brought in, which I'll come back to in a minute. And we're still waiting for Fabio Vieira to let us all know if he's been a good signing or a bad signing. I think it's one of the weakest midfields in the top 6 outside of the 3 that we start. I don't look at the backups and go, wow, at any of them, if I'm honest. But the Kai Havertz thing is an interesting one because when you look at what we were doing in that summer window just gone, I knew we needed 2 midfielders. When we brought in Declan Rice, I thought, brilliant. Now we need to go and get Caicedo. Oh, looks like it'd be too much. Who else are we going to bring in? Kai Havertz is the answer. Now, that is similar to me saying, I really want Tariq Lamptey at Brighton to come and replace Saliba at centre-half when he's out. Everyone would go, you're joking, aren't you? He's about 4'11" and he's quick. That's all he's got. No, I think it'll work. That's what we're trying to do with Kai Havertz. We're trying to put him into a midfield position that he can't play. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say this is all on him yesterday because, like you say, he wasn't one of the worst ones yesterday, right? But this is just another performance that I look at and I'm scratching my head going, why, 1, are you still playing? And why, 2, are you playing in that position? Why are we not seeing Kai Havertz playing as a centre forward being brought on in the last 25 as a different dimension striker? Why are we not seeing that? That's my first question. The midfield, Lee, is going to cost us long term unless we go and do something in January in it. Because I don't think, like you've said, Jorginho's the answer. El Neni hasn't kicked a ball for how long? They're the 2 backups behind Partey, a player, by the way, who we knew would be injured again this season, that we did nothing to address in the summer. And then we've got no replacement for Granit Xhaka still. And at the moment, Lee, I don't know who our number 6 and 8 is because when we get a couple of injuries, everybody has a trial. Who fancies the number 8 today, lads? I will give it to Vieira. I'll give it to Smith Rowe. I'll give it to Odegaard. I'll give it to Havertz. I'll give it to Rice today. What about the 6? Well, Partey's out. We'll give it to Rice. No, or Jorginho can have a go now. What is happening here? This isn't squad rotation. This is trying to give someone a trial to please hold down the position because we ain't got anyone. This is a worry in midfield for me, even more so than the other positions. This midfield, I don't think, Lee, has been well thought out in the summer at all.
No, that's where I blame the manager for it, like, you know, and we'll just go. Listen, when I'm looking at our midfield, like, let's be honest, we spent 65 million on Havertz and 35 on Vieira. What's that? 100 million, right? Well, I would have rather have gone and got a Caicedo for 100 million and not had them 2 in it, like, you know what I mean? If I'd be really honest, you know, I look at Kai Havertz and as I say, like, you know, people can criticise him or whatever, like, you know, I don't think it's a signing we needed. You know, I'm still scratching my head why we've gone and spent that amount of money on him and what is he actually positioned? We needed a box-to-box player. And at 65 million pound, I don't want to gamble. Oh, we can play here and he can play there, Dan. You know, this is someone that comes in. What people keep saying to me, we're missing Granit Xhaka. Well, we are missing Granit Xhaka. Yeah. Do you know why we're missing Granit Xhaka? Because no one steps up to the plate to do that. It's not that we're missing Granit Xhaka, the player. It's because no one stepped in and done the job. And as you say, you're playing Vieira there 1 or 2 games. Then you're playing Declan Rice in there. Realistically, you know, Declan Rice would probably be the better option. But then you're losing that. We haven't got no one to do the holding midfield role to me. So you have to revert back to Declan Rice going back there. And then you're bringing in Jorginho to do it. You know, I think Smith Rowe's had a go at it, and it, like, you know, if you ever look at it, I think Vieira's had a go at it. Smith Rowe's had a go at it. Havertz has had a go. I think even you could say Trossard had a go in pre-season, probably done a better job than anybody in pre-season in America. Hasn't been given the opportunity to do it since. So I think at the end of it, you have to look at the manager for that. Like, you know, it's £100 million player. You know, I'm still waiting to see what Vieira does. I'm still seeing him being pushed off the ball. I'm still seeing not consistent enough performances from him. I'm not seeing Havertz, you know. Let me go back to the Havertz thing. As I said yesterday, he done okay yesterday. I think Kenny said it as well. He done okay, but okay ain't good enough. Not for 10, 11, 12 games at £65 million. If he's come through the academy and he's putting in those sort of performances, you go with it a little bit and say he's doing okay. But this is you're expecting the real deal that coming in here now. Like, I look at Declan Rice, right? And this is my theory on this side. Declan Rice has come in, right? And we're not giving him time. He's just come in and he's smashed it, right? Yeah, we agree on that, like, yeah. 105 million. So for 30 million pound more, right? That's what you getting than Kai Havertz, right? And here with Kai Havertz, everybody's turning around and saying, "Oh, he needs a little bit more time." Oh, I'm willing him to do well. I'm willing him to have good games. And this, where I expect it off of Declan Rice. I'm expecting what sort of performances I'm getting from Declan Rice. It's 30 million pound more. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the problem I've got with Kai Havertz. You know what I mean? Like, and as I say, I don't think he was awful yesterday, but he's still not good enough of a performance that you need week in, week out. I expect him to be rocking in and taking the midfield by storm. He should look, for him to be successful, right? Yeah. What should be happening now is everybody in the chat should be going, Shaka who? Shaka who? Not Shaka Khan. Shaka who?
Sorry, Lee.
I mean, that's what it should be, but we're not.
You know, the thing is, you made a great point. And the reason why I laughed out loud is because I'm just at the end of my tether. Since when has Granit Xhaka been Michel Platini? Can somebody please explain it to me? Things are so bad that we've now, like talking about Granit Xhaka and how much we miss him. That is the problem. He's one of the biggest myths at our football club from day one. He's the epitome of okay performances. Only one season was he spectacular. It's because we found a position for him. Yet we try to lionize him as though he was better than Partey and that he's a massive miss. Yes, great leader of men, a good captain. She never lost a captain, in my opinion, from a footballing basis. But, after what happened to the fans. But the problem I have is that we're now trying to recreate history regarding Granit Xhaka. He wasn't that of a superstar for us. In fact, he was very much maligned by our fans. Let's not forget the reason why he lost the captaincy, because our fans harangued him online and during matches. And I was one of the only ones to defend him. And I said he was well within his rights to tell us where to go, because we were all right to do it, hand him after Bournemouth at home, Aston Villa at home and Sheffield United away. And he gives it back and we start, start crying our eyes out like we're like the victims, when he was well in his rights to snap. And then he actually lets us know what he really thinks of us. Now he's in Germany, what he really thought his time of Arsenal. And fans are surprised. Well, why would he say that? Short memories. Just like your analysis and your according to Granit Xhaka, our midfield, and what a great game he had, because he was just doing the basics. He was not he wasn't dynamic either. His ball was just okay, except for last season. So, but that's what happens. We have another situation with our goalkeeper. Lee touched on Aaron Ramsdale and Raya. Obviously, Raya was at fault for the. You think that Raya had a problem with the goal, but we'll get that in 2 seconds. But every time Raya's now getting lionised, all of a sudden, until we're in West Ham, Aaron Ramsdale was like akin to Gordon Banks and Lev Yashin, because we're not happy with what we've seen, and that's the problem we have in our fan base. But one thing you do touch on, you're right, that Raya was part of the problem. But whenever a goal happens in a football match, it's phases of play. The fact is, we've always been taught as kids, play to the whistle. Who told 3 players to stop? Since when has a player been a referee? We think the ball's gone out. Willock is just, thinks he's in. We should be reacting better. Willock shouldn't be able to just walk, because he didn't run, he walked and pick out Joe Linton. Who was pressing Willock? I didn't hear the whistle go. Did you hear the whistle go? You were at the ground. Did you see the referee go beep? Throwing goal kick Arsenal. I didn't see that. So why did they stop? What was Gabriel trying to do? Trying to win another free kick? Is he stupid enough to think that referees ain't sussed him out, that he's one of the biggest con men ever trying to win free kicks? and then you have the situation where Raya, he's part of the problem. He's meant to be the goalkeeper's meant to be leader of that defence. He's meant to be shouting them, get there, get there, get there. But whilst he's shouting them, he needs to react a bit better. So there's about 5 players who are at fault for the thing, and that's the situation.
Well, let's
that
go
ball
in.
not gone in, that'd have been a VR problem, and that's the situation that's getting that goal. It was a comedy of errors, mate. The one time Newcastle had a chance, we switched off, and then we wanted VAR to save us. We should be looking.
Well, let's touch on that now before we go in any further. Let's touch on that now because I think that's what we want to close on. For me, I want to close the show on this goal and the reaction from Mikel Arteta and the Arsenal statement. This is my fault of it watching it back because I actually didn't watch it. All I did after the game was go out, have something to eat and drink with the people around me and just forget about the result. I didn't want to see the game back again. And I didn't until today. And I was on the way home and I watched the highlights and I watched it again when I got in. I've watched all 3 of the things. And I'm with you, Kenny. I don't know what Ben White's doing. He's just watching Willock and having a look at him. Maybe he's trying to check out whether he should have stayed at Arsenal or gone and played at Newcastle. But for me, it was embarrassing. Just staring at him, just watching him. I think the ball's gone out. Some people think the ball hasn't gone out. It's fine. It's 50-50. Some people are saying it has. People are saying it hasn't. Right? So that's the first one. The second one is the offside. Okay. Can't really see if he is or isn't. Some are saying that's fine. No clear and obvious there. But the one that is for me is the foul. So I watched it and I thought actually maybe Gabriel should have been stronger. But he's got both hands on him. He's pushing him down. And I think that's a foul. So that's the one I'm going to go with as to why that shouldn't have been allowed. What I don't agree with is the massive outrage and overreaction on this call. Because I would say the performance was more worrying than the VAR. In my opinion, because even with that VAR, we ain't winning the game. That ain't the reason we ain't got 3 points. Yeah, we were never getting 3 points because we were poor. Yeah, so even if that wouldn't have counted, I'd still be walking away going, what a disappointment, 0-0. Oh, God, we ain't winning this league. We've got to be winning games like that. So I ain't sitting there now going, oh, if it weren't for VAR, I'm still doing fine. It's VAR that's the issue. It's them refs again, them poxy referees. They're the problem. It's nothing to do with Arsenal. We're all rosy. No, quite the opposite. Now, Arteta, in my opinion, has gone a little bit over the top, but some would say that perhaps he's just had enough now and gone, actually, this just adds to the 2 or 3 that have affected my club, and I'm just going to go in now and go in on them. So that's what he wants to do. That's fine. The Arsenal have made a statement. Everyone's come out in the media saying it's now embarrassing. So be it. But they're my honest opinions on the 3 of them. I think the ball might have gone out, but apparently we don't know. Cool. What about the next one? Well, the next one is it's a foul on Gabriel. No, apparently it's not. All about the offside, too close, can't tell, can't be looking at that angle, all these kind of excuses. I'm not outraged by this. I'm disappointed by the performance. Now, I might be alone there and everyone might disagree and go, you're joking, Dan. The VAR's robbed us. It screwed us over. Yeah, it's going to continue to do that. VAR is not something I can rely on anymore. So we need to make sure we never have to rely on VAR by winning games of football. That's my honest opinion. Lee.
Right. I get it. And the reason that I'm gonna back Arteta for coming out with this, I do think there's a little bit of putting up a little bit of a smoke screen about it because of the performance and everything like that. No one's talking about Raya making a massive mistake and everything like that. I get that. West Ham at home last season, Boxing Day, took 6 minutes to chalk off a goal from Martinelli on the line. Do you remember it? 6 minutes, right on half time. 6 minutes, and then they got the conclusion that it was offside. Yesterday, they took 4 minutes to do all 4, and they didn't. It's offside. I've watched it. I've seen it's offside. People are going, oh, well, he's beyond. You have to have 2 players behind the ball. 9 times out of 10, the goalkeeper's always behind the ball, so it's only 1 defender. So people don't even know the rules, but it has to be 2 players. If you look at it, he's behind. He's in front of Gabriel, but he's behind the goalkeeper, so it's offside. Now, when you're taking 6 or 7 minutes. And finding a way for Martinelli to be offside. It didn't affect us because we went on and won the game. So it doesn't matter. Then another 2 months later, they forget to put the lines up for a goal, like, you know what I mean? Costas against Brentford, right? You know, then there was one again this season that's happened already, like, you know. I think at the end of the day, enough's enough. You know what I mean? Like, I'm fed up with it. I'm fed up with, like, the incompetence of VAR. Not just with Arsenal, by the way. Wolverhampton Wanderers, as Kenny said earlier on, I don't know how they feel about it. They must be going absolutely
And about
mad.
5, haven't they now? About 5 in 12 games.
That they've had, right? So I think at the end of the day, Mikel coming out with it is not just for Arsenal's sake, it's for everybody's sake, because it's piss poor what I'm seeing from VAR week in, week out. They don't even get the lines right. Forget to put the lines up for the Liverpool game. Cost Liverpool points. You know what I mean? Everybody was laughing and joking Liverpool. I wasn't. I didn't think it was fair. You know, Wolves with whatever. Even last week, you know, you can go on to the Man United game. When you turn around, people are saying, "Oh, ain't really a push, and it's not really a foul." Well, so was that one at Manchester City and Man United last week, because I've seen that 100 times. Why is that getting given? You know what I mean? Like, you know, now those are the things that go on to it. Now, I've seen today, I don't know if it's true, Michael Oliver in a Newcastle shirt and all that, and he's the one on VAR. You know what I mean? Like, so I am right now. I'm backing Mikel on that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if he's done it for the right reasons, guys, and those right reasons are because I'm fed up with VAR. And I think at the end of the day, if he's fed up with it, that's fine. If he's looking to cover it up because of mistakes from other things, that's wrong. So that's where I stand on that, like, you know, and I'm glad that Arsenal have made a statement about it, because it's not right. You know what I mean? Like,
Jamie Carragher's not.
I'm fed up with things, right? If you
Jamie
have a look
Carragher
at
was not.
yeah, well, forget about what he says, right? You know what I mean? Let's go back to the Wolves one, the penalty at Wolves yesterday, minimal contact, right? Still given. Why was it given? And people turn around and say because it was the on referee's call. Yeah. Yeah, right. You agree with that? Very harsh. It was referee's call at Manchester United Arsenal when Havertz went down for a penalty.
Yeah.
VAR changed it. They didn't change yesterday's one, did they? When it was the same sort of thing, Dan. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but they've said,
you got the Rashford ball that was out and the weren't out. This one weren't out.
Exactly. And they've gone on that one, on that VAR. They've gone on with you think it's right, with you think it's wrong. Referee's call, referee's call. It was the referee's call at Manchester United versus Arsenal, and they overturned it. So I am saying, right, call out these people, because you're doing it one week and you're not doing it the next one, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So it's that, like, you know. So listen, Noel, how can you be offside when Gordon is behind Joe Linton? Go and get your rule book out. He's behind Joe Linton, but he's in front of Raya. So, like, that means you have to have 2 players for offside. This is what I'm saying when people don't know the rules, Dan. You know what I mean? I'm knocking Niall for it, because a lot of people don't know the rules in football, like, you know. That's why people are not thinking it's offside, but it is offside, like, you know. Right? But that's why, so for instance, on everything there, that is why I think it should be called out. And I'm happy that Arsenal have called it out. And, you know, Liverpool called it out. Listen, if I'm in Liverpool, if I felt that decision was 10 times worse than what we've had yesterday. Like, if I'll be honest, I'll be really honest. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it should be called off, but it isn't. Like, you know, and that is the problem. Like, you know, that is the problem.
It is. It's massively a problem. The other thing that was a bit of a strange one, Kenny, Bruno Guimaraes on Jorginho, was crazy. I don't know what that is. People are saying, "Oh, is that a red? What is it then? What is that?" There's nothing. Apparently, there's nothing. Well, VAR going to look at that now, because he didn't give a yellow, so he can go back now and look at that, but they won't. His elbow Jorginho in the head. I don't know what he's doing there. Kai Havertz, he's gone in hard. I looked at it and thought, yeah, it's a yellow, but that could have quite easily, very, very closely have been a red. People are calling it like an orange card. That was a bad one. But I don't think they've got many things right there again. And this is why I keep saying, Kenny, we have to perform in these games, because when we're talking about VAR, it's not normally when we won 4-0, is it? It's normally when it's cost us. And I get that, because it's not just Arsenal that do that. Liverpool do it, Spurs do it, Wolves do it, right? But for me, we've got to now just forget about this, trying to rely on this technology used by these officials, because it ain't going to win us any games, mate.
Well, of course, that's the thing. But the thing is that people need to. I can't tell people what to do, but what I can say is the reason is let's not forget why we had VAR, and let's not forget who called for it. Everyone with a stakehold in football, and fans have a stakehold, journalists have a stakehold, pundits have a stakehold, players, chairman, and coaches have a stakehold. The common denominator was they said the referees need help. They need technological help because they have these in other sports. So we can't put the genie back in the bottle. We really can't. You know, where we want to or not, we can't. The problem with yesterday's, the goal itself, is because we've been told that the attackers should always get the benefit of the doubt. Before, when people were, when everything was more defensive, it was defender got the benefit of the doubt. But because we wanted to see more goals, wanted to see more, more action, it was always the attacker who got the benefit of the doubt. So, unfortunately, if they say they're not sure about the ball going out and they weren't sure about the offside or the foul, then I was pessimistic. I was just thinking, that's going to be a goal, because the minute it went from the ball not going out, I said this is a goal. But in terms of like Kai Havertz, that's not a sending off. It wasn't high, it was low, and it was one of the things where he's gone in recklessly but competitively. But that was it was a yellow card. I think the reason why people was calling that a red card is because of the overreaction by the Newcastle players and Eddie Howe and his mates trying to overreact and trying to get the place off. And then when you see people pushing and having a go at the guy, it becomes worse than what it was.
Yeah.
Because what's happening now, Guimaraes now thinks he can do what he likes now, because they think that it should have been red, but it wasn't a red. Guimaraes was a prat from minute one to 95th minute. He was just a prat, and let's face it, anyone who dyes their hair blonde is a prat anyway. Don't get me wrong. But in terms of how he played, he was just looking for trouble, looking for problems. I'm just glad our players didn't follow him, because he was looking for an accomplice. The forearm smash, I don't know, mate. The forearm smash, I thought it could have been a yellow. The handoff in the face, that was hand on the face. We've seen it happen many times, haven't you? When you're someone's trying to tackle you and you just do that, it's accidentally on purpose. Should he have been sent off? Well, I think he could have been, because if he committed 2 yellow card offences, so yeah, he should have been off. But again, the referee was allowed to control a lot of that game. If the VAR should have gone, right, we're not happy with this. VAR looking at it. VAR looked at it and said no. But I've got a problem with VAR, because what we had before VAR was catastrophic. It was catastrophic. The referee in this country was terrible.
Yeah, facts.
I think VAR has saved us. A lot of goals that shouldn't have been awarded are not being awarded now. We've got to think about it. Let's look at the Man United Fulham game. I thought that was a goal that McTominay scored, because Garnacho wasn't offside. But when I looked at it again, Maguire was trying to get involved in a free kick. He put his foot out, and that caused the Fulham defender to react. So that was correct. Now, there was no VAR. Fulham may not have had a goal they shouldn't have had. So, not 70% of the times VAR's done well. It's just the high-profile times when it's gone wrong. And poor old Wolves and Gary O'Neill, they suffered more than anyone else. We kind of got upset of it, because from where it looked, the ball looked like it went out. I was calling it for it to go out, no doubt about that. I was calling for it to go out, because I thought, right, that's no goal. But again, I was sure, but I'm not on the pitch. I'm not a liner. I'm not in VAR, and that's the situation. I do think that it was paint on the cracks. But in terms of Arteta being supported by the football club, well, yeah, Arteta's it's not a surprise, because Arteta's been has got as much love from the football club as Arsene Wenger was getting from the club. In fact, I don't think even George Graham got that love from the club. I mean, George Graham is our greatest ever manager, even better than Wenger. Yet I don't remember him getting these kind of like, these gifts from Havertz like Arteta gets. But it's the way you should do. You should always back your man, because that's the way to do it, because they know that if they don't, they know what's coming there. Because Arteta lost his rag in the press conference, they know that the Premier League and the FA are going to go for him. So they had the right to do it. It's a shame that they didn't do that for George Graham 32 years ago, when they fined him after our players decided to have like I said, 11 against 11 at Man United. But I'm not talking about football. I'm talking about the handbags. But that's the way things are. Arteta's the most important manager we've ever had. A lot of people have a lot of time for Mikel at the club. In fact, I think Mikel runs the show. I mean, there's a lot of things we don't know what's going on. We certainly have not been told a full story about Thomas Partey, but I'll leave that to everyone's imagination. But if you believe everything you're hearing about the Thomas Partey situation, well, I suppose you don't watch enough of the Bill or the American spy programs.
Mate, we'll leave that one. But I'm with you. Listen, something I wanted to quickly touch on before we close, Lee, was we had some of the best set piece records I've ever known in the last 18 months. Scoring from them, not conceding from them. Nicholas Yover has got a hell of a lot of respect, and rightly so for that. Has he left us? Because at the moment, our set pieces are a shambles. We had 11 corners yesterday. Newcastle had none. And we were awful. We couldn't beat the first man. We've got this obsession with getting all of our players at the back post. So they all run towards it. They don't beat it. Doesn't reach any of them. It just gets cleared away by the first Newcastle lad or the first defender. I've been so disappointed by. Doesn't matter who takes them, by the way. Whether it's Martinelli, Trossard, Saka, they all go the same place. What are we doing there?
Yeah, listen, I think it's been poor. I don't know what's been going on with our set pieces, particularly the corner takers. I remember last season, I think it was against Fulham. We was putting it in the near post and going, what the hell are they doing? And then obviously they targeted it, and Leno let one go, and we ended up nicking a goal. And you thought, wow, they've sort of seen a weakness there and they've exploited it. I don't see none of that now. It's just like the crosses and set pieces and corners and free kicks, poor. Really poor, you know what I mean? So, and I'll tell you what, saying about that Bruno, I wouldn't want him at Arsenal. Not because I don't think he's a good player or anything like that, but the antics that he gets away with, he'd never get away with them at Arsenal. Never would he. They'd be on him like a rash.
I agree with that.
If he was playing for Arsenal, yes, he'd been sent off.
Oh, he would have, 100%. No, that's so true, actually. You think about that, and that is absolutely spot on. And he's done that now 3 games in a row now. He's done that against West Ham, now against Arsenal. There's one more he's done it against as well. So, yeah, he's a dirty player. Very good player, by the way.
I don't get it. I like him as a player, but I wouldn't want him at Arsenal because he wouldn't last 5 minutes.
Well, there we go. I think that's fair. Just quickly before we close, there's one super chat here from Strasbourg Steve who says, who was Newcastle's man of the match for you guys? He says, thanks, love the content a lot. Well, thanks for the super chat, man. Lee, any Newcastle players stand out for you yesterday?
I'm going to say it now. I thought I was very, very, very impressed with Trippier. I thought he played really, really well in the right back position. And then when he went over to the left back position, he done really well there as well. I was very, very impressed with him. And I was impressed with the 2 central defenders. Not up against a lot, but there you go, you know what I mean? But I didn't think anybody really stood out on both teams, if I'll be really honest. But I thought Saliba for us and Declan Rice defensively. But Trippier, I was very, very impressed with. A player that I've never been really too sure about, but watching him yesterday, I was very impressed with him.
Fair play, man. One player, not just in this game, but one that's really, really impressed me of late has been Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, very good.
He's been really good. And when he left Everton, I thought, quite a hell of a lot of money. But actually, he's really played well. And I thought it was again,
he started off bad there, but he's settling in.
Yeah, he's settled in now. He's settled in now. Fair play. Listen, we've got Seville and Burnley next. We might as well close on our thoughts going into those ones. Lee, start with you. Let Kenny have the last word. Confident going into that? What would you like to see changes? Any changes at all? Or
I don't see many changes because for the simple reason is we can't really change that many. So I expect a tough game against Seville. maybe nick it by the odd goal, 1-0, 2-1, something like that. I expect a feast against Burnley.
Yeah, I do as well. Kenny, anything to add on that?
Well, yeah, I think Sevilla is still going to they're going to be worried about our athleticism, because I think our athleticism was what won us the game. 3 weeks ago. But one thing they're going to be like really happy about is that there's no Jesus. They're going to instead have Eddie. So, Jesus caused them a lot of problems. It enabled Martinelli to run into a lot of space. So that's another, way we got to fix it. In terms of Burnley, I say it respectfully, because I do respect Company. They're a gift that keeps on giving. How they think they can play expansive football in this league is just, well, it's
They've been poor, man. They've been really poor.
Brainstorm, because they're asking for trouble, because it's commendable. But if you're going to leave space against us, then I'll tell you one thing: Eddie's going to look like Pele again, because he's going to get a whole lot of chances.
Yeah, he'll probably get another hat-trick, and then everyone will say we don't need Ivan Toney again.
But there we go. You know the score, mate. You've got to give him credit when credit's due. But in terms of Eddie Nketiah, the litmus test is always the away games and the big games, the 6-pointers.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Listen, going to leave it there. Guys, an absolute pleasure. Kenny, thanks so much for coming on, mate.
I appreciate it. I do love going with Lee. I was thinking about that time I was talking about dyeing hair. Well, I can't dye my hair blonde, and Lee, I'm sorry, mate. The only person who's kind of can dye their hair blonde is
I used to dye my hair blonde, you cheeky
shot. Lee, I see you when you were young. You had the Charlie Nicholas haircut.
Yeah.
I've got photos somewhere. I'll share them with the panel. It was lovely, mate. Hey, you've got to see it, mate. Dan, it's a bit before your time, because you're born in 1987. But I'll tell you one thing: Charlie Nicholas was basically the Mesut Ozil of the 80s, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, we all loved him. Your
favourite player, Lee, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Charlie
my favourite player. I loved him.
Yeah. Didn't exactly win get many games though. He wasn't consistent.
No, he didn't. We didn't mind. We had a poor side then back in those days. Well, not a poor side.
Well, he won the Little Cup for us in '87, and he used to always do well against Spurs. He was scoring against Spurs.
Fair play, man. Lee, big up for coming on, man. Thanks so much, mate.
No worries.
Be back on your channel soon, so make sure you head over, people, to Lee Judge's TV.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of technical issues at the moment, so which we are trying to sort out.
Where's Michelle? Where's Michelle sorting that?
She's on the case. She's on the case, Kenny. She's on the case.
Good.
She is on the case, man. She's on the case. Right, listen, make sure you do us a favour. It's been over 700 of you watching live. Make sure you all smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you go follow Lee Judge's TV and, of course, Kenny Ken on Instagram, where you can see all of his content. So make sure you do that, people. If you do want to go check out Bread and Honey Bets, make sure you do. The link is in the description. And another good weekend this weekend. So make sure you go check that out on the Patreon as well. Link in the description. Smash a like on your way out. You'll be transferred over to Never a Foul. We're just about to go live. So make sure you stay tuned. We'll send you over to there. And we'll see you next time, people. Take it easy. Laters. Up the Arsenal.
Up the arse.